The door doesn't slam. It should slam. There's enough force in the way my father's hand releases it, too abruptly, too deliberately, for the wood to recoil against the frame, for the hinges to scream in protest, for something loud and undeniable to punctuate what just happened. But it doesn't. It closes softly. A slow, controlled click. And that is worse. Because it feels intentional, measured, final. I am still standing on the inside when the latch settles into place. My fingers are curled around nothing mid-gesture, suspended in the ghost of a plea I never finished forming. My mouth is slightly open. I can feel the dry tension in the corners of my lips, like they've been pulled too far and don't quite remember how to return. No one moves. Not him. Not my mother. Not me. The silence stretches in a way that feels unstructured, like it has edges, like it's being held in place by something invisible pressing inward from all sides. My father exhales first. It's not a tired exhale, not the kind that comes after something difficult but necessary. It's sharper than that, controlled, almost rehearsed. You need to go, he doesn't raise his voice. That's the first thing that doesn't align. Because every version of this moment that has ever existed in my head, every imagined argument, every hypothetical breaking point, has always been loud. Messy. Chaotic. Words overlapping, emotions spilling over, something human cracking open. But this feels administrative. Like a decision already processed, filed, approved. I blink. The air in the room feels heavier than it should. Thick. Like it has been breathed too many times without being replaced. I become aware of the sound of the ceiling fan, slow, uneven, a faint mechanical click at the end of each rotation. I've heard it my entire life. Never noticed the click before. Now it feels intentional. Like everything in this house has been waiting for this moment except me. I don't understand, I say. But even as the words leave my mouth, they feel wrong. Not because they're untrue, but because they sound too simple. Too small for what's happening. My father's eyes don't soften. That's the second thing that doesn't align. There is usually something there. Even in anger. Even in disappointment. Some flicker of hesitation. Some residual trace of recognition that I am his son. Right now there's nothing. Not emptiness. Worth. Certainty. You're 35, he says. Each word is placed carefully, like stepping stones across something unstable. Yes, I say automatically because there is an implied accusation in the number, and my brain is trying to keep up with it, to assign meaning, to find the missing context that would make this make sense. You don't contribute, there it is. A shape begins to form, but it's distorted, incomplete, like looking at something through warped glass. I feel my brow tighten. The muscles pulling inward as if physically trying to compress the confusion into something manageable. I do. You stay here, he continues, not raising his voice, not interrupting so much as overriding. You eat here. You use everything here. And you give nothing back. There's a shift inside my chest. Small, but sharp. Because that's not, I swallow, but my throat doesn't feel like it's cooperating. The motion is incomplete. Like trying to close a door that doesn't quite align with its frame. That's not true, I say, and the words come out thinner than I expect. I've been paying my mother move. It's subtle, a slight adjustment of her posture on the couch, but it draws my attention instantly, like a flicker in peripheral vision that you can't ignore. She doesn't look at me. That's the third thing that doesn't align. She always looks at me. Even when she agrees with him, even when she's silent, there's always that small, involuntary glance, something soft, something conflicted. Now she's staring at her hands, folded, still, like she's holding them in place. I don't want to argue about this, my father says. The sentence lands heavier than it should, because it's not a refusal to argue. It's a declaration that the argument has already happened. Without me. My thoughts begin to move faster, but not clearer. They scatter, overlapping, colliding into each other, trying to construct a coherent line of reasoning from fragments that don't fit. I transfer money every month, I say, and now there's a slight tremor in my voice, not from fear, but from something closer to disorientation. For the house. I've been doing that for years. You know that, there's a pause. Not long, but long enough. My father tilts his head slightly, just enough to signal acknowledgement, not agreement, not confusion. Acknowledgement. That's your responsibility, he says. The words don't make sense. Not immediately. They hit something in my brain, bounce off, and return without resolution. My responsibility, I repeat slower now, as if stretching the phrase might reveal something hidden inside. What do you mean, my responsibility? I've been helping, you're living here. The way he says it strips the sentence of nuance, turns it into something blunt. Vex. Yes, I say, and now I can feel something building behind my ribs, pressure, not yet emotion, just what? Pressure. And I pay for it, no, he says. And something shift, not outside, inside, small, but irreversible. No, he repeats quieter this time. You stay here, the distinction feels. What? Deliberate. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out at first. Because my brain is doing something strange, replaying the last few seconds, trying to detect where the misalignment occurred, where the conversation diverged from reality. I don't think you're understanding, I say finally, but now there's a tightness in my chest that wasn't there before, a constriction that makes each word feel slightly forced. I've been covering the mortgage, the full amount, every month there. It's out, clear, direct, undeniable. It should resolve something, it doesn't. My father doesn't react, not with surprise, not with confusion, not even with denial. He just looks at me. And for the first time, I feel something cold slip into the space behind my rib. Because his expression doesn't change at all. That's not how this works, he says. The sentence lands like a misfired echo. Not how it works, the mortgage, the house. Reality. I've been sending the money to your account, I say, faster now, the words beginning to stack on top of each other as if speed might compensate for the growing instability underneath them. Every month. You can check. It's all there. I have the records, you send money, he agrees. The agreement is too easy, too smooth. And that money, he continues, goes toward expenses. Something tightens in my jaw. The mortgage is the expense, I say, and now there's an edge creeping into my voice, not anger, not yet, but something sharper. That's what I've been paying. No, he says again. So, certain. No, the word begins to lose meaning. It stops functioning as a response and starts to feel like, no, what? I feel my heartbeat now. Not fast, heavy. Each beat pressing outward against something that doesn't give. Then what have I been paying, I ask. The question feels dangerous the moment it leaves my mouth. Because it implies a gap, a discrepancy. Something unaccounted for. My father's gaze doesn't waver. Rent, he says. The word doesn't land, it just hangs, suspended, disconnected from everything else. Rent, I repeat, but it sounds wrong in my voice, like I'm testing a word in a language I don't speak. Yes, the pause. Then, for staying here, something fractures. Not loud, not visibly, but I feel it. A thin internal crack running through something that has always been. Assumed, stable, unquestioned. No, I say, but now the word feels different. Less certain, more reactive. That's not no. That's not what we agreed on. My father's expression doesn't change. There was no agreement. The sentence is precise, surgical, and it cuts deeper than anything else he's said so far. Because it doesn't just contradict me. It erases something. Something that I was certain existed. I turn my head slightly, my gaze snapping toward my mother, because there has to be something anchoring this, some external confirmation that I'm not, but she doesn't look up. Her hands are still folded, too still, like they've been placed that way. Mom, I say, and now there's something creeping into my voice that I don't recognize. Not quite desperation, not quite fear. Something, thinner, more fragile. You know, you remember. I've been, she exhales, soft, barely audible. I don't want to be in the middle of this. The sentence lands like a quiet collapse. Because it's not a denial, but it's not a confirmation either. It's absent, chosen, deliberate. And suddenly the room feels smaller. The walls close, the air heavier. Like something has shifted in the geometry of the space itself. pulling everything inward by a fraction of an inch that my body can feel, but my eyes can't measure. I'm not asking you to be in the middle, I say, but now my voice is tightening, the words coming out faster, less controlled. I'm asking you to tell the truth, silent. The fan clicked. Once, twice, 3 times. She doesn't respond. And in that silence, something begins to unravel. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But in thin, almost invisible threads. Because if she doesn't confirm it, if he denies it, then what does that leave? I feel a strange sensation in my hands, like the blood is pulling away from them, leaving them lighter, less solid. I have the bank statements, I say, and now the words feel like they're coming from somewhere slightly behind me, like I'm listening to myself from a distance. I can show you. Every transfer. Every month. The exact amount of the mortgage, it matches. It has to match. My father watches me. Quiet. Still. And then he says, "You can show me whatever you want," a pause. But it doesn't change anything. The sentence lands with a kind of finality that feels disproportionate to its content. Because it's not arguing with me. It's bypassing the argument entirely. And that's when the pressure inside my chest shifts from confusion to something sharper, more unstable. Because for the first time, a thought begins to form, not fully, not clearly, but enough to cast a shadow across everything else. What if I'm wrong? It flickers. Just for a second. But it's enough. Enough to make everything that follows feel slightly off balance. Enough to make the room tilt by a degree so small no one else would notice. Except me. And I can't unfeel it. The thought doesn't arrive fully formed. It seeps in. Thin. Colorless. Like something leaking through a crack I didn't know existed. What if I'm wrong? It doesn't replace what I know, it coexists with it. Slides in beside it. Presses gently against it, testing its edges, not trying to destroy it yet. Just measuring. And that is worse. Because certainty, when it breaks, should shatter loudly. It should announce itself. It should give you something clear to react to. This doesn't. This just lingers. Soft. Persistent. Uninvited. I feel my tongue press against the inside of my cheek. A small, unconscious gesture, but it anchors me for half a second, something physical, something real, something that exists outside of whatever is happening in this room. I can show you right now, I say. My voice sounds tighter, not louder, just narrower, like it's being pushed through something constricted. I have my phone. The records are there. They amount. Every single, you don't need to show me anything. My father's interruption is immediate. Not aggressive. Not dismissive. Just decisive. And there's something in that tone that lands heavier than any argument. Because it implies he already knows what I'm going to show him. And it doesn't matter. A strange sensation moves through my chest. Not pain. Not exactly. More like pressure shifting direction. You're not even going to look, I ask. The question comes out slower now. Measured. Because something in me has started adjusting, subtly, unconsciously, to the rhythm of his responses. Quick doesn't work. Emotion doesn't work. So I slow down. I try to match him, he exhales. That same controlled exhale. You're missing the point, there it is again. That phrase. That quiet repositioning of reality. My fingers twitch. A small movement. Almost imperceptible. But I feel it like an electric pulse. No, I say, and this time the word feels heavier. More deliberate. I think you are silent. But it's different now. Not empty. Not neutral. There's something under it. Something. Tightening. I've been paying the mortgage, I continue, each word placed carefully now, like I'm reconstructing something fragile piece by piece. Not helping. Not contributing. Paying. Fully. For years, I can hear my own breathing. Too loud. Too close. I didn't question it, I go on, and now there's something creeping in, something sharper, something with edges. I didn't ask for anything back. I didn't ask for ownership or recognition or anything. I just did it. Quietly. Consistently, my throat tightens. I trusted that it meant something there. That word. Trusted. It feels exposed. like I've placed something fragile in the center of the room and stepped back. My father's gaze shifts, just slightly, not away, but on through me. You made that assumption, he says, and something inside me slipped, not break, not yet, but on loses traction. I didn't assume anything, I reply, but now there's a faint distortion in my voice, like the signal is weakening. That's how it was presented. That's how we talked about it. No, he says. Again, that word, that wall. That's how you interpreted it. The sentence lands softly, but it lands deep, because it doesn't deny the past. It reframes it, subtly, completely, and suddenly memories begin to move. Not clearly, not in order, but they shift. Fragment, conversation, moments where money was mentioned, where I transferred funds, where he nodded, where she smiled faintly, where nothing explicit was said, but something was. Implied, wasn't it? I tried to grab onto one. Just one clear moment, one undeniable confirmation, but every memory I reach for feels slightly blurred, edges soft, details negotiable. And that's when something colder begins to spread, because it's not just that they're denying it, it's that I can't prove it, not in a way that feels solid. You're twisting this, I say, but now the words feel thinner, like they're losing weight as they leave me. You're changing what happened. No, he replies. Calm, stable. I'm clarifying it. The room feels smaller. Again. Or maybe I'm just becoming more aware of its boundaries, the walls, the corners, the way the light falls unevenly across the floor, leaving certain areas slightly dimmer, slightly. On the cert. I glance at my mother again. She hasn't moved. Her hands are still folded, but now I notice something I didn't before. The tension in her fingers, subtle, but there, like she's pressing them together just a little too hard. Mom, I say again, softer this time. Careful, measured. Plays, the word feels dangerous, because it carries something underneath it, a request, a need, a dependence. She inhales. Slowly, her shoulders rise, just slightly, and then she speaks. You've always been sensitive about money. The sentence doesn't hit immediately. It passes through, like something moving through water. Distorted, delayed. What, I ask. But it's not really a question. It's a reflex, a reaction to the shape of the sentence, not its meaning. You worry, she continues, still not looking at me. You overthink things. You attach meaning to them. Each phrase lands a fraction of a second too late, like my brain is struggling to process the input at normal speed. I'm not attaching meaning, I say, but now there's something unstable in my voice, something that wavers at the edges. This has meaning. It's money. It's years of it's rent, my father says again. And this time the word doesn't just hang, it presses, it pushes, it insists. I feel my chest tighten. My breathing becomes more noticeable, shallower, faster. I match the exact amount, I say, and now the words are coming quicker again, slipping out before I can fully stabilize them. Every month. The exact mortgage payment. That's not random. That's not coincidence. You chose that amount, he replies. Simple, clean, uncomplicated. No, I say, and now there's something rising, something closer to panic, but not fully formed yet. No, that's not. Why would I choose that? That doesn't make sense. You tell me. The question isn't a question. It's a deflection, a redirection. And suddenly the burden shifts onto me to explain, to justify, to prove. I feel something tightening in my temples, a dull pressure, like something is being compressed from the inside. I didn't choose it, I insist, but now there's a slight crack in the sentence, a tiny fracture in the certainty. It was always that amount. From the beginning, from your beginning, he says. And something in that phrasing, that subtle distinction, lands wrong. Deeply wrong. What does that mean, I ask. But my voice is quieter now, more cautious, because I can feel it, something shifting underneath the surface. Something I don't fully understand yet. It means, he says slowly, that you came into this arrangement with your own expectation. Your own interpretations, he pauses, just long enough. And you never clarified them. the room feels. What? Distant. Not physically, but perceptually. Like I'm slightly removed from it, observing it through a thin layer of something transparent but distorting. That's not true, I say, but now the words feel weaker, like they're struggling to hold their shape. We talked about it. When, he asked. Simple, direct, and devastating. Because my mind goes blank. Not completely, but enough. Enough that the moment I try to pinpoint it, to extract a specific instance, a specific conversation, a specific confirmation, nothing comes. Not clearly, not cleanly, just fragments, impressions, feelings, and those aren't enough. Not here, not now. Multiple times I say, but it sounds hollow. Even to me. Give me one, the words are soft, but they land like a demand. And I try. God, I try. I search. I push through the noise, through the fragments, through the blur, but every memory feels contaminated, like it's been touched, adjusted, slightly altered in ways I can't track. Like I start and stop because I can't finish. And that silence, that small, incomplete moment stretches, expands, becomes something larger than it should be. My father watches me, not with anger, not with satisfaction, just observation, like he's waiting for something inevitable to complete itself. You see, he says quietly, and something inside me finally breaks. Not loud, not outwardly, but internally. A clean, sharp fracture. Because in that moment, the doubt that slipped in earlier, the thin, colorless thought, expands. Rapidly, violently. What if I'm wrong? It's no longer a question. It's a presence, a force, pressing against everything I thought I knew, distorting it, reframing it, rewriting it in real time. And suddenly I can't trust the memories. I can't trust the assumptions. I can't even trust the feeling that I was right. Because what if that feeling was always misinterpreted? My breathing becomes uneven. I can hear it now, loud, intrusive, filling the space between every word. This doesn't make sense, I say, but now it sounds more like a plea than a statement. It doesn't make sense to you, my father correct. And that distinction, that quiet, precise distinction, lands like a final adjustment. A last, deliberate shift of the frame. I feel something hollowing out inside my chest. Not emptiness, but absent. Like something that was there is no longer accessible. And I don't know how to reach it. You need to leave, he says again. Same tone, same calm. But now it lands differently. He's not removing me from the house. He's removing me from something else, something less tangible, something I can't define anymore. I look around the room, the couch, the table, the fan, the walls. They all look the same, but they don't feel the same. They feel unfamiliar, like replicas, like I'm seeing them slightly out of sync with what they are. I don't have anywhere to go, I say, and the sentence feels strange, because it's not entirely true, but it feels true. In this moment, in this state. That's not our responsibility, he replies. And there's no hesitation, no softness, just finality. I nod, slowly, because something in me understands, not logically, not clearly, but instinctively. This isn't something I can argue my way out of, because the argument itself has been destabilized. The ground it stands on is no longer solid. I reach for my phone. My hand feels slightly disconnected from the rest of me, like it belongs to someone else, like I'm controlling it with a delay. I open the banking app. The numbers are there, the transfers, the amounts, the date. Clear, undeniable, proof. But as I stare at them, they feel distant, abstract, like they belong to a different context, a different interpretation. And suddenly I hear his voice again. You chose that amount. And the numbers, the exactness of them, begins to feel less like proof, and more like coincidence, or worse, like something I constructed, without realizing it. My thumb hovers over the screen. I could show him, right now, and this, prove it. But something stops me. Not doubt, not exactly. Something, deeper. Because what if I show him and it doesn't change anything? What if he looks at it and explains it in a way that makes sense, a way I didn't consider, a way that reframes everything again? What happens then? What do I have left? I lower the phone. Slowly. My hand feels heavier now, like gravity has increased without warning. I'll go, I say. The words come out quietly, almost calmly, and that scares me more than anything else, because I don't feel resolved. I don't feel convinced. I just feel unable to continue. My father nods once, as if something has been completed. My mother doesn't move. I turn toward the door. Each step feels deliberate, measured, like I'm learning how to walk in a space that doesn't quite obey the same rules anymore. I reach for the handle, pausing, just for a second, because there's a part of me small, fragile, almost gone that expects something. A call, a correction, a reversal. But nothing comes. Of course nothing comes. I open the door. The outside air hits me. Cooler, lighter. But it doesn't feel relieving. It feels empty. Like stepping into a space where something essential is missing. I step out. The door closes behind me. Softly. Again. That same controlled click. And I stand there. On the other side. Alone. The world looks the same, the street, the sky, the distant hum of traffic. But something is off, subtly, permanently. Because as I stand there trying to reconstruct what just happened, trying to anchor myself to something solid, something real, I realize something that settles into me with a quiet, irreversible weight. I don't know if I paid the mortgage. I don't know if I imagined it. I don't know if I misunderstood. I don't know if I've been wrong for years. And worse, I don't know if I'll ever be able to prove that I wasn't. The thought doesn't explode. It doesn't devastate all at once. It just sits, heavy, silent, unmoving. And as I take a step forward away from the house, it follows perfectly, like it belongs to me now, like it always has.